Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. In this video, I'll be giving my thoughts on dealing with spike damage. Let's talk about, first of all, what spike damage is. Spike damage is basically when you take an amount of damage from one single attack or an attack and many attacks in a very short period of time that is a large percentage of your health bar, as opposed to taking a hit from your typical mob in the dungeon that might only be 5%, 10%, or less of your health bar. Our characters generally, if we're talking epics, or even if we're talking most heroics for most characters, now it may be a little different for new players, but most characters can deal with lower consistent damages. This is non-spike damage because it's pretty easy to heal yourself. You have potions, you have scrolls, you have spells, you have ways of healing yourself before your health runs out. So if you're getting hit for 5% of your damage, your HP total, it's not a big deal because you have plenty of time to drink a potion, pass a scroll, whatever. But when you get hit with spike damage, you can get killed because it either, one, reduces your health bar faster than you can humanly react, just faster than you can hit your heal button on your keyboard, or two, it kills you instantly without giving you a chance to heal yourself at all. So here's some thoughts on how to deal with this threat. The first thing we need to talk about when it comes to spike damage is fortification. Fortification is pretty straightforward. What it does, if you're not aware, if you're a newer player, fortification reduces the chances, or all in out prevents the chance of you getting critically hit. So for example, if you have a 75% chance, if you have 75% fortification, this means that you have a 75% chance to turn a critical hit from a monster into a normal hit. Now, there's exceptions to this rule. You can even have if you have 100%, you most of the time are immune, but there are some monsters such as champions that can bypass your fortification, so this can change. But generally with fortification, you want to shoot for 100% in heroics as early as you can get it. There's certain items as low as minimum level, I think 9, where you can get 100% fortification, but even up until that point, you want to get as high of a fort item as you can get to prevent spike damage. In epics, you'll even want to have more than 100% because, like I mentioned, some monsters can bypass your fortification. But in epics, in part, fortification loses a little bit of its value because there's some monsters that can just ignore your fortification completely, like champions. Speaking of champions, on to point number 2, champions give out more spike damage than your typical monster. Champions often have damage buffs that cause them to, as I just mentioned, bypass your fort, and they also have damage buffs that means they will be hitting for 2-3 times more than your typical monster. So you want to take out champions first. Always, now there might be a few exceptions, but almost always you want to take out the champions first. If you go into an encounter, you see 4 mobs and one is a champ, go after the champion first. You want to take out that spike damage. You want to get rid of the spike damage as soon as possible. On to my next point, self-healing. When it comes to your self-healing, you want to make it easily accessible. This lets you better react to the spike damage. On your hotbar, you always want to have your heal, your in some kind of oh crap heal, like the heal spell, reconstruct spell, maybe it's a silver flame potion, whatever it is, you want to have it in a very easy to access key on your keyboard. I keep my heal spell on 2, my number 2 key. For me, I feel like that's my fastest reaction. That gives me the ability to react to it fastest. I think it's a little faster than the 1 key, but that's just my personal preference. But you want to keep it on a key that you can access quickly. You never want to have your most vital heal not on your health bar. You always want to have an option or 1 key that you can hit instantly that will heal your health bar up to full. Also, you should have some kind of backup heals for when this major oh crap heal is on cooldown. That also should be easily accessible. So you might have your heal spell on 2, you might have maybe a Cure Serious spell on 1, or maybe a Silver Flame pot on 1, whatever it is, you want to have some kind of backup healing on a separate key so that when your major healing heal spell is on cooldown, you aren't screwed over by spike damage. Let's talk for a minute about the easiest type of spike damage to avoid, and that's insta-kill spells. Often in the dungeon, enemies will cast destruction at you, finger of death at you, some kind of insta-kill spell that will just kill you outright, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for this. And how do you prepare for this? Well, you need to make sure that you have Death Ward on. That prevents you being killed instantly by these insta-kill spells. And you can either take the easy route and just have Death Ward on all the time, or you too can become knowledgeable of the enemies in each dungeon and just cast it when it's required. Now, if you're not a class that gets Death Ward inherently, there are several things you can do to grind it out. The most common of which is clickies that you can get from Tangleroot. You can get a 7-minute Death Ward clicky from that chain. So if you're not a class that gets Death Ward inherently, you're going to want to have some of those on you at all level ranges, really. Let's move on to my last point, which is the biggest thing, the most important factor in preventing spike damage, and that's knowledge. Just gain knowledge. You need to know spike mechanics in quests and in raids when they exist, especially in raids. That's where you typically see the spike damage that's going to kill you instantly. You have to know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and how to avoid it. Oftentimes, the only way to prevent spike damage at all is just knowledge, just knowing when to avoid it. For example, in Von 6, Vela, the raid boss, she has a tell where you can see the smoke and the fire coming out of her nose before the flame spike damage hits. So you just have someone watch out for it. In Fall of Truth, you have the boom from the Storm Reaver. You need to make sure he's facing the wall. In Mark of Death, you need to know when Inferno is going to happen, and you need to know where the safe spots are. So oftentimes, you just need to understand the raid mechanics or the quest mechanics to avoid spike damage. There's nothing you can equip. There's no spell you can cast on yourself. You just have to know when it's going to happen, and that just comes with knowledge and experience. And when it comes to raid bosses, normally, them in particular, knowledge is typically your only defense, and we see a trend nowadays in the raids, in stuff like Mark of Death, and we saw this trend continue in Defiler of Just, where they throw massive spike damage that will just insta-kill you if you don't know how to avoid it. So typically you need to know the mechanic, or you're going to die from the spike damage. So overall, guys, to summarize everything, best ways to avoid spike damage: have Fortification, kill the champions first, have your self-healing easily accessible on your health bar, and know the mechanics, especially in raids where spike damage is going to hit. Guys, I hope this video helped you out, or if it didn't help you out, at least reminded you and refreshed you of a few things you need to keep in mind when talking about and playing with spike damage. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment if you did. I will see you all next time.